I'm Jerry Sargent and welcome to Cosmic Truth. In this show we're going to be talking to a number of individuals from across the globe, men and women, insiders that have stepped forwards to tell you, the human race, the truth. We're going to be discussing extraterrestrials, space programs, government issues. We're going to be taking you deep inside Area 51 for a grand tour. We're going to be talking about different levels of density, raising consciousness. We're going to be discussing the ascension process. We're going to be talking about so many different interesting and informative topics. We're going to be sharing information that you must know. Humanity needs to know this information because this information will set you free. In this show, I'm going to be introducing you to an incredible human being. His name is TREVOR Jermy. We're going to go into Trevor's home and he's going to share with us stories, information that you will not have heard before. Trevor is an ex-RAF pilot. He's had extraterrestrial encounters many a times. Trevor worked in the very first Star Wars project before it became HARP. He's been to Area 51. He's been to planets. He's been to different stars. He's been in Arcturian spacecrafts. He's had a whole myriad of what some people may deem crazy experiences. But we're going to his home today. We're going to sit down with him. We're going to meet him. Let's see what Trevor's got to say. Trevor Jermy, thank you so much.
It's nice to meet you.
It's great to be here on the show with you. You've had a really interesting life, all the way from a child, you felt a bit different. You've had experiences with extraterrestrials. You were an RAF fighter pilot. You've come into contact with UFOs. You've been into Area 51. You've met reptilians, Dracos, tall whites, other grey aliens, or grey extraterrestrials, should we say. Don't really like to use the term aliens, or beings, yes, whatever we're going to call them. You've lived an amazing life.
Yes, I've done many things. I've been very lucky, really. And, I was going back to early childhood. I felt a little different. And used to have these nightmares when I was a child and have dreams that used to happen. And at school, I'd remember children I knew who weren't that well off, came out of poorer backgrounds, and they didn't have enough food to eat. So I'd share my sweets with them, and some as without got any troubles or anything was not right, and silly little things like that that people maybe take for granted. It was just the kind of person I was, and
a loving, kind, and compassionate person from an early age.
I had terrible nightmares as a child, and I'd see things that as I grew older would happen. I'd dream that I'd be in a certain place, and a few days or maybe weeks or even months later it would happen. And it was. I used to get frightened of it. I used to be terrified of Halloween. And I had big problems with Halloween as a child, and my mother was very understanding, and she used to help me through, but she said, I know what you're going through, but you're too frightened for me to tell you what I know, and you'll have to sort of adapt to it as you get older, which is what I did, and eventually went to the RAF like my father. He was in the RAF during World War II, served with the RAF in the 75 New Zealand Squadron, flying out of Newmarket and Meeple in Cambridgeshire, Newmarket in Suffolk, against German targets. And I always loved aeroplanes. I was fascinated by anything that flew, whether it was unidentified flying object, which I only knew was science fiction in those days. And it wasn't until about 1970 that I saw the program UFO with Ed Bishop playing Ed Straker. Some of you may, the older ones in particular, may remember that series. And it got me thinking. I used to wonder if these machines really could exist, and if they did, how did they work, and are they from this planet?
So you're always fascinated with extraterrestrials, beings from other planets, UFOs from an early age?
I never knew they existed. I just wondered if they did. I used to look up at the stars at night and wonder, and my father would yell at me, "Trevor, come in, it's getting cold," because the back door would be open. I'd be gazing up at the stars, and I used to find that I'd look at the sky and I'd see a star, which I now know is in the books, constellation, and from that I see the plough and in the constellation of the Great Bear. In those days I didn't know that, they were just stars, but I was always drawn to look in that area of the sky, and it wasn't for many years later that I'd actually discovered the reason why. And after watching Jerry on YouTube, I thought, well, something came to me. I thought, well, I've amassed some knowledge, and I'd like to share that knowledge, and that's why I'm here with you today.
I'm very grateful for you stepping forward. I mean, to give people a bit of an idea, I've got some notes here from one of the first emails that you first sent me, and I'm just going to read a couple of these short paragraphs out, because it'll give people a bit of an idea of where you've come from, where you've been, why we're sat here today, and the troubles and the traumas that you've actually faced from other groups of people, the government, etc., etc., on your road to unravelling this truth. It says here, I was an RAF pilot flying a Buccaneer SB-2 on exercise, doing a dummy nuclear bomb attack on a USN aircraft carrier over the North Atlantic Fleet. We were 60 feet at 600 knots on run into target when the radar went dead. We could see the target visually, and we could also see a UFO. Another incident. We were on a routine 2-ship interception on a QRA, quick reaction alert. We ID'd a Russian bear over the North Sea in international waters after photographing the aircraft and giving goodwill waves to the crew. They did the same back to us. We broke off from the Russian bear and were on our way home when a UFO was spotted on our radar. 30 seconds later, visually at 60,000 feet altitude. The lightning I was with gave chase but could not catch it. The UFO went straight up at a 45-degree angle and was out of sight in 2 seconds. I had no radio contact with the other aircraft. Presumed its radio was unserviceable. We both made a normal landing, but when his aircraft taxied in, no one was on board. This incident was classified. So you were up in the sky, in an aircraft, travelling at how fast? What kind of speed?
1,650 miles an hour, or Mach 2.5.
Mach 2.5.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine what it'd be like to travel at 1,650 miles an hour.
At that kind of altitude, we left the bear at 45,000 feet. We were vectored to it by Eastern Radar and ground control. Goes down the entire east side from Scotland right down to Kent, over the United Kingdom airspace. We'd ID'd the bears, just routine, didn't even enter UK airspace. We were able to get airborne just under 3 minutes from sitting in from the time the scramble call went off to the time we were actually airborne. We were rotating the wheels after 3 minutes.
And just for everyone listening, what's a scramble call? How does that look like? How does that happen?
Well, you're just sitting on QRA in a quick reaction.
Inside the plane, or?
No, inside the bunker. You're in a bunker. It's like a living room space, really. Inside the living room we have a safe which keeps all the latest information, intelligence information on Russian aircraft and Russian Navy vessels as well, because sometimes we have to work at low level to identify Russian or Soviet. In those days the Cold War was still on. Identify their Navy vessels, and sometimes they're fishing trawlers that act as fishing trawlers, but they're really intelligence gathering with electronic equipment, and we can measure that electronic equipment and determine what wavelength they're on, what frequencies are on. If we know the wavelength, we can work out the frequency, or the boffins can, when we send the information to them. In this particular case, there was a Russian bear, as I said before.
And what is a Russian bear? A satellite?
No, it's a 4-engine bomber.
It's a bomber?
From the Soviet Air Force.
And it's manned with people on board?
Yes, it's manned. It has a crew of about 12 people. and it's a large aircraft. It's 4 huge turboprops, each propeller, 4-bladed prop. They're counter-rotating, so you've got 8 propeller blades. The diameter of the propeller blades is 20 foot 6 inches, and the aircraft has got a 195 foot wingspan. It's about 230 feet long. It's a big aeroplane. You can't miss it. It's a great big silver thing with red stars on it. And during the time of identifying, it's the huge big. You can see it 3 miles away at 45,000 feet. There's unlimited visibility. You're above the clouds.
So when a scramble came through, it's like a radio message?
Yeah, it's just a telephone, really.
Okay, you pick the telephone up?
Yeah, it just goes,
Jump in the planes, the lightnings?
It just comes through, and in this case, my colleague picked the phone up, and you just yell, "Scramble!" and we just run, grab everything. You're already in your flying kit. You're in your flying kit for all the time you're on duty, and it never comes off. So just grab your helmet, grab your gloves, and go. The ground crew have the engines on the aircraft, both aircrafts in the barn. They're just standing side by side, and we run to each aircraft.
And there was you in one aircraft and someone else in another, or was it not 2 pilots in each aircraft, just one?
No, just one. It's a single seat, Lightning's F6s.
And can you remember the name of the other guy you were with?
I'd rather not give his name,
okay,
because he didn't come back, and I don't know the circumstances regarding his family, so he may have had a funeral, he may not have had a funeral, and we're talking about a funeral without a body, and I can't afford to have those memories come back for those people.
Okay, no
problem. Because they wouldn't have been told the truth by the government anyway, because they couldn't find any trace of this chap.
So you and this other chap, you were running with your gear to the planes, you took off,
yeah,
and then what happened?
We just straight up the ladder, straight into the ejector seat. You can't stand on the ejector seat because there's always a risk it could fire, and even though there's 4 pins in place that render the seat use, it is a pyrotechnic charge, and it can blast you up in the air to 1,500 feet through the roof of the building if need be. It's that powerful, and with a 1.5 second delay from the time you pull the thing to the time the canopy deploys and you're free of the seat anyway. So that's a major safety consideration. So you must put your feet not on the ejection seat you sat on, but on the cockpit floor either side of the control column. Once you're in, the first thing you do, strap yourself in. You have a ground crew up on the ladder, will not assist you with the strapping, but he'll be busy just making sure you haven't forgotten anything, especially the leg restraints. If you have to use the seat, they pull your seat back underneath the seat pan so you don't lose your legs in the cockpit. The instrument pan will be like a guillotine, will take your legs completely off your body. And he's just there just to make sure that
so they strap your legs back,
are safe and ready to go.
So what happens if you take off too quick? Your legs fly up, do they?
No, they're on the rudder pedals.
Okay.
But it's just you cannot move your legs back off the rudder pedals quick enough in the ejection sequence should it need to be.
Okay. So it would only chop your legs off if the ejector seat went off.
Yeah.
Okay,
you can't physically move your legs quick enough, so the ejection seat sequence does that for you.
Okay.
And it's just mainly safety, for your safety as well as them, because they don't want anything going wrong.
So they strap you in, everything's checked, you take off,
yeah.
You're up in the air. What happens next?
Well, the 4 seat pins have to be released before you start thinking about taxiing. There's one right behind the back of the seat which you can't reach, so the ground crew's there to do that for you and hand it to you, and then you just stow it, and you have 4 positions that you can stow them in on the side of the cockpit. And then you're ready to go. You fire the other ground crew member, spinning his finger around like that, and say ready to start. You've got the low pressure cocks on with the fuel flow to the engines. Main engine start. There's the bottom engine. You've got one engine above the other, so you've got the bottom engine which fires up first, then provides the generator which produces the power you need to power up all the controls. So then your radios come online, your take-out navigation systems come online, your radars come online, your integrated weapon systems come online.
How long does all that take?
just a matter of seconds.
Okay.
What I'm talking about happens in probably less than 3-4 seconds.
Okay.
And it's just so much happening that you there's no fast way of saying it, otherwise it's just gobbledygook.
Okay.
And so there's a lot going on in your mind. You have no idea at this point where you're going. The engines are starting up. You feel the engine spool up, and once the bottom engine is ignited and fired up, then the second one goes in turn in synchronization with the first one. And you've got both engines running. You switch over to high pressure fuel cocks, which give you full fuel flow. You're then checking the engines for correct turbine temperature, correct exhaust temperature, correct position of the pedals for the afterburners, to make sure they're all within safety limits, and the pressures inside the engine, the lubrication, the oil system, fuel flow is all working.
So all of this stuff happens, and then you take off?
No.
I just can't wait to get to the Russian bear bit and find out what happens.
No. You're then going through instrument check, radar check, navigation check. We leave the main radar off, because it has it's microwave energy, so you'll fry the ground crew if you switch it on.
Okay.
And you can't do that until you're actually clear of the runway. We do that once we're airborne in the QRA launch. So then it's like this, the chocks away, and ground crew will move the main wheel chocks and the nose wheel chock, and then we'll taxi straight onto the runway. No word between us and air traffic control, because they realise there's a QRA alert. Time we've been getting the aircraft ready to go on the runway, they're already cleared the airspace for us. So we're straight on the runway, straight off. And
so this is a lot of information, right? So to give everybody an idea, and me an idea, from the time you get that scramble message come through to taking off, all of this stuff's happened. How long actually is that? From you getting the phone call, legging it down the runway, to being up in the air? What's the sort of time?
In this particular case, 2 minutes and 58 seconds.
2 minutes and 58 seconds. All of that happens. Yeah. Wow, that's quick, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's just line up on the runway, and you don't even stop to check the brakes. You just quickly tap the brakes on the top of the rudder pedals as you're taxiing out of the barn, just to make sure the brakes work, just in case you need them. Because you sometimes need to stop if something should go wrong and the engine, you don't develop enough thrust to take off safely, then you need to abort until you get above ground speed of about 140 miles an hour. So you need to know the brakes are going to work if you need to abort the takeoff, and he'll go off as a single ship. Okay. And then someone will be vectored and scrambled from another airfield to join him.
So once you get up in the air, you're up in the air now, okay? And what happened when you saw this Russian bear? What was the kind of process? You see, you vectored series of navigation directions of degrees, and you're vectored to the Russian bear. We have a limited range on our radar, which I can't disclose. But when we were in the few miles of the Russian aircraft, so within 3 miles, you can see it visually, and you're just vectored up to that point. What does vectored up mean?
It just means it's like where there's a navigational fix. There's 3 intersecting lines, and where they all intersect, that's your vector, and that's where the target is.
Okay.
And
so you reach the target.
And we work together as a team. Every aircraft, you visually identify the aircraft type, and just say there's a Russian bear.
Did you communicate with the Russian bear?
No, they're on a different frequency to us, and we're on a different frequency to them. They also don't have an IFF of the right frequency to be
What's
detected.
an IFF?
Identification, friend or foe.
Okay.
And
so you identified this Russian bear, you knew that it was okay, so you carried on?
No.
Okay, what happened?
We gather intelligence information on the aircraft. There's always an opportunity to learn something new. So one aircraft would stay off the wingtip, and the other one would go around and photograph the aircraft. We're looking for things like unusual aerials, something new, something we haven't seen before. Maybe there's a blister on the aircraft.
What's a blister?
Like a bump where you might have a radar dish underneath there, or some kind of electronic detection equipment, or even cameras. And look for anything like what might resemble a camera lens, because some of the camera lenses can be 30 inches, 3 feet across. so they can't be missed. So we're looking for those kind of items. We're looking for different shapes of the air intakes to tell us whether they've uprated the engines or not. We're looking for the kind of turbulence. We'll actually fly inside the turbulence behind the aircraft to get an idea of the types of propeller they're using, if they've changed any, the way the propeller will push the air back, provide thrust for the aircraft. That can differ as well. They have a different signature that we can pick up.
So how long does it take you to collate all this information?
About 5 or 6 minutes.
Okay. So what happened in this particular scenario? After the 5 or 6 minutes you've collated the information, what happened next?
They were quite happy with us, and we were quite happy with them. We weren't in international airspace. They weren't a threat to national security. So we just peeled off. We just had a goodwill wave, and they gave a goodwill wave back to us. It's general. It's just
like etiquette in the sky.
Yeah. That's exactly. That's all it is, and it shows we have respect for you, and that shows us they have respect for us.
Okay.
And we'd vector off, and we'd actually see their aircraft peel away as we were peeling away. So we'd split away like that, and they would head back deeper into international airspace. And
then what happened?
We were just on our way home. And
how far away from base were you at this point?
150 miles.
Okay. And whereabouts were you exactly?
We were very close to Delta Charlie 6, which is it's an in-flight refueling point over the North Sea, which is approximately 50 miles east of Great Yarmouth.
Okay.
And it's used a lot. That kind of airspace is very, very busy for military traffic.
Okay, so you're 150 k's out. What next? You're on your way home? We're
on the way home. We were just coming over the coast, and my colleague saw a bright light high in the sky.
What colour was it?
It was yellowy colour, and he just flew towards it. He just wanted to try and see what it was. Curiosity.
Did you follow him?
Yes, I did. I tried to follow him, but he was 2 or 3 miles ahead of me, and I couldn't keep with him. And because my aircraft was in a tight turn at the time, he'd already completed the turn, so he was in a better position to get away from me, and I couldn't keep up because I was still bleeding airspeed coming through that turn. I was on just a correction navigational course with vector and back home, and he saw this in. He said, "Well, I must go and investigate it." I said, "Okay."
So you were talking to each other on the radio?
Yeah. That
comms at the time, yeah?
Yeah. And about 30 seconds after that, I said to him, I've got no radio contact. And at this time, my aircraft lost radio contact with the ground as well.
So everything went dead?
No, everything was functional in the aircraft. The radio was functional, but I just couldn't pick up the signal from the ground.
Okay, so it was like something was blocking the frequency?
Yeah.
Okay.
And couldn't raise the other chap in the other Lightning F6. Couldn't talk to him at all. Just no response.
Could you see him?
I could see him. Yes. Yeah. He was flying towards the light, and he was under full control, as far as I could tell.
And the light was just stationary, just staying there.
It was stationary to begin with, and then he flew literally into the light, and I didn't see him anymore.
Okay, but then his aircraft came out the other side.
Yeah, his aircraft. The light got brighter. It was like it was coming towards me, but you could see the atmosphere was becoming ionised. And at this time, I got worried about my aircraft instruments. They were starting to play up a little bit. I was getting misreadings, and the head-up display failed to work. And I had to glance down into the cockpit instruments and notice that the primary instruments were okay. The engines were working well. Everything was okay. The hydraulic system was okay. Fuel flow, fuel distribution system was all okay, because the fuel flow as it's used up in the aircraft is go from one part of the aircraft to another to maintain the balance of the aircraft. So the balance is, by this we mean the centre of gravity of the aircraft, has to be maintained all the time to make the aeroplane flyable.
Okay, so this other craft, this other Lightning's gone through the yellow light.
Yeah.
This yellow light's coming towards you. What have you done? You've decided to go back to base?
No, I'm still going towards the yellow light. It's coming towards me, and so I want to know what's become of him. And suddenly I see his aircraft veer to the left away from it, and I think, oh, he's okay. So I veered to the left as well, and the light just vanished. It just went up. It was so fast. It went from a bright light to a streak of bright light.
I've got here that it disappeared in about 2 seconds.
Yes, it did.
Like it went up at a 45-degree angle and just went boom, out of sight.
Yeah, 45-degree angle, and it's just.
And how far did it travel in that 2 seconds? Completely disappear?
I just think well over 100 miles. We have something like 100 miles unlimited visibility. Something 60 to 80 miles.
So it travelled more than 100 miles in less than 2 seconds.
Yeah,
unbelievable. Then what happened with the two aircrafts? You're coming up behind your other guy, or was he still 3 miles in front?
Yeah, but I just wanted to say before I go further is you've got to remember at 60,000 feet you've seen the curvature of the Earth. So that distance is very hard to tell because you've got the curvature of the Earth in there. So, it could be 100 miles, it could be 80, it could be only 60. It's very, very hard to tell because of the curvature of the Earth. But all you saw, it just went from a yellow light, a ball of yellow light, to a yellow streak of light, and it'd gone from that in 1 second. Well, you got to 2 seconds, it had gone, and everything was just as it was before. So the other guy's aeroplane's in full control. I had no radio contact with him. Looked down at my instruments, my head-up display come back online. All my aircraft instruments were working as they should. There was no need to give an emergency. I had established contact with the ground, so I could hear them and talk to them, and everything was fine. I radioed them on the ground. I think my colleague has radio failure, and we come in and fly off his wingtip and just guide him in. They said, okay, do you want to put out a pan emergency? I said, no.
What's a pan emergency?
A pan emergency is just apparent aid to navigation. So you give aid to there's a call out for help with navigation, and it wasn't necessary because I was with him, so we were just flying together.
Okay.
And used my aircraft.
And his plane looked like it was in complete control?
Yeah, it was in complete control. I couldn't get to the cockpit. I wanted to see for some reason, I wanted to make sure he was okay and in the cockpit, but I couldn't get to the cockpit to see him. Every time I tried to fly past the wingtip, I'm coming down his left-hand side because I turned a bit sharper. So he would I could come alongside him gently and not disturb his airflow. And as I drew nearer, I couldn't get beyond, my nose couldn't get beyond his wingtip. See, on the Lightning, the wings are swept back 60 degrees. And you find you need to get past that wingtip so you can see the cockpit. And I just couldn't see the cockpit, so I couldn't tell whether he was still on board or not. But I had a feeling that something felt different. But apart from that, the rest of the flight back to base was completely normal.
And how long did it take?
Just 10, 12 minutes.
Okay.
We'd just flown around. And
so did he taxi in before he landed?
He landed before I did.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't get ahead of that wingtip. So we had to come in that formation.
So he landed, then you landed, and then what happened to the two planes?
Well, his aircraft landed perfectly. Normal landing, taxied out, and back into the ramp where all the aircraft are assembled prior to flight. Didn't go back to the barn. They come through my headphones. Just taxi wherever you can on the ramp. Don't go back to the barn. Normally would have just gone back to the barn where we started from. And they said, we just want to make sure the aircraft are okay. I said, okay. And taxied in. He taxied where he could, and I taxied right beside him. Couldn't believe it when I looked at the cockpit, no one was there.
What was that feeling like to see that he was completely missing?
Disbelief. Total, utterly disbelief. I rubbed my eyes. I thought, no, I'm seeing things. He's there. He's got to be there. I got out my aircraft. Well, in fact, before I got out the aircraft, I made the seat live. I'm glad I remembered to do that, at least anyway. Screamed at the ground crew to get the ladder up. I said, something's wrong. They thought my aircraft was going to blow up. I said, no, my aircraft's fine. I ran over to his aircraft, screamed out and put the ladder up, got over to the cockpit, and the cockpit has 2 buttons. You press one of them, the cockpit will open outside manually, and which the cockpit did. Looked in the cockpit, and the straps were all there, all connected. The leg restraints were just down on the cockpit floor in front of the ejection seat. His oxygen had been disconnected from the aircraft. His G-suit receptacle has also been disconnected from the aircraft because there are 1 unit on the left-hand side of the ejection seat. And all the pins were still in their stowage position, so I mean the seat was still live and it wasn't safe. And we've had things in the Air Force where people have been flying an aircraft and the ejection seat would just fire for no apparent reason due to electromagnetic disturbances and short circuits in the aircraft itself. It puts an input into the system and can make the seat fire prematurely. Well aware of this, all I could do was get into the cockpit, straddle each sides of the control column.
So you got into his cockpit?
Yeah.
What made you do that?
Had to make the seat live.
Okay, I've got you. Okay.
Because if it fires, someone's going to get killed.
Yeah.
And you didn't want anyone from the ground crew thinking the aircraft's safe, go in there, put their head in there, and it fires. You just decapitate them.
Okay.
Because there's 22G when one of those seats fires, and each seat weighs just under a ton.
Wow.
So they're not light pieces of equipment. You can't treat them lightly. You have to take them very, very seriously. They are a real risk to your health if you don't know what you're doing.
So I'm assuming at some point people have been decapitated.
It has happened, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So you got in the aircraft, you sat down, you...
No, we didn't sit down.
Okay.
No, you can't sit down, it's too risky. You have to stand up and jiggle your body around so you can reach the pins where they're stowed on the side of the cockpit.
And put the pins back in.
Put the pins back in the seat. We have to put the ones at the pan first and then work your way around to the one at the back, because if you do the one at the back first and leave the others, the chances are the seat can fire. Or even if 3 of them are put in, if you accidentally pull on the handle, you lose your balance and pull the handle down the blind from the top above your head like this to fire the seat. Or if you trip and knock the other lever down the bottom, flip that up. Although it's got a 15-pound pull, you're not going to do it accidentally, but it can happen. You could catch a bit of your equipment, so I'm still in full flying gear, unaware of it, stand up straight, you flip the lever and the seat fires and you go with it. And so you have to put the other 3 pins in, and then put the one behind last.
Okay.
That's the one that makes the ejection seat gun safe.
So what happened after you put the pins back in?
Then you can probably sigh of relief, and you've got to tell the ground crew
that he's missing.
Yeah. And
did they already know that he was missing?
No.
Okay, so you broke the news to them, and what did they do?
Well, the first one could actually see the marshal who guiding the aircraft did. He said he went to the wrong area. He did take no notice of me whatsoever. And I said, he's not there, mate. He said, what do you mean he's not there? I said, come with me. I took him up the top of the ladder and I looked. I said, he yelled at him to come up and have a look. He's not here. And he couldn't believe it either. You know, he was in shock, stunned. Jaw just drops on the floor.
Especially seeing all the straps done up as well.
He said, did you do the straps? I said, no, I haven't touched them. I've just put the pins in, made the seat safe.
What happened after this?
He said, come out of the cockpit. He said, I've got to write this up. I've got to see the chief engineer. So he, come out of the cockpit. He came down the ladder, so I had to follow him down, get down, and called the the chief ground engineer, who's responsible for the whole squadron, all the maintenance on the aircraft. And he said, well, this will be towed to a separate hangar, so will your aircraft. And it was then put in the hands of the Farnborough Flight Investigation Team, and we no longer had nothing to do with the aircraft. Never seen the aircraft since. We never saw it again.
Okay.
We were just kept well out of the way, and I believe the ground crew member that I had told is not there and taken out to the cockpit had had a nervous breakdown some 3-4 months later as a result of he just couldn't accept what had happened, and he wondered what happened to him. We all wondered what happened to him, and none of us know.
And no one's ever found out ever since. Did anyone come and speak to you, like from the military, from the RAF, about this incident? Did anyone say keep your mouth shut? Did anyone do anything?
We had people from the Ministry of Defence come and see us, and they said the unusual thing about both aircraft is that they were in better condition than what they were before they left. They had been, my aircraft had been done for new tyres to be fitted. We only get 4 landings on a set of tyres. He said the wheels, the tyres on the aircraft look brand new, and we haven't got to replace them. They'd actually taken them off the wheels, inspected them, they even x-rayed them. That's what I know about my aircraft. With the other chap's aircraft, I know nothing. They wouldn't tell me anything about that aircraft apart from it was fully serviceable. That's all I know. But I know their checks are very, very thorough, and they cordoned off that part of the airfield, and no one was allowed anywhere near it, armed guard 24 hours a day.
And that was the last you ever heard of all of this?
Yeah.
You heard nothing else whatsoever?
I just had to file a report, which obviously went classified, and never knew anything more about it.
Okay. So you've had a number of these types of experiences whilst you were flying
About
different
4.
aircrafts?
4.
Four of these experiences?
Yeah,
okay.
But that was the most dramatic.
That was the most dramatic of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the most traumatic as well, because it don't hit you right away. It kind of creeps up on you, the traumatic aspect of it, 'cause it takes a while for the mind to accept and understand or even comprehend what has happened, because something's taken place which you can't explain. No one else can explain. The officers who interviewed you from the Ministry of Defence and also the civilian colleagues from higher up in government were asking me questions I can't answer. They said, "You seriously suggested to me that this chap just disappeared?" And I said, "Yeah, I mean, I don't know how. Still don't know how." He said, "Were they alien?" I said, "I don't know. All we saw was a light in the sky." Was it a UFO? I don't know, because all I saw was a light in the sky. And they would just, because they weren't getting some answers back from me, they think you had been deliberately awkward or uncooperative. And it was amazing how many different ways they could ask basically the same question. So many different times they just rephrase the question and you give them the same answer. They'd rephrase the question again, you give them the same answer. It wasn't going anywhere. And that's when it became traumatic, because you think they don't believe me, they think I'm lying.
Maybe you're involved, or
maybe I've
you're
done
covering
something
up,
I shouldn't
or
have done. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So you had 4 incidents like this, and after the 4th incident, which was in an F4 Phantom GR2 over England, sighted a UFO over Suffolk in the distance. A ball of light was flying off your wing, and obviously you reported this UFO sighting again.
yeah, that was just amazing, because we were flying along at about 500 knots, just cruising speed, and we were about 5,000 or 6,000 feet off our left wing. It was doing complete circles in line with us, keeping with us, doing complete circles. And we were just amazed.
Did you feel threatened at all?
No, we felt very, very peaceful.
Very peaceful.
Calm, very calm. We didn't feel under any threat whatsoever. Neither my backseater, he felt the same
So
way.
there's 2 of you in this aircraft?
Yeah, he said the same thing as me. He was a little bit further back than me, so I was looking in the mirrors on the aircraft because of the forward of the wing in the Phantom, and he was depending on his mirrors and turning his head round as far as he could. He was making himself uncomfortable trying to see this, and Willoughby said the lights were coming around, but you couldn't see the complete circle, but you knew, you had an idea what was going on, what sort of flying he was doing, if you can call it flying. I'm not sure if you can. And it was just incredible. And it lasted for about a minute, couple of minutes maybe at the most, and then he just went off slowly.
Was there any communication with this craft?
No,
No?
nothing at all.
So you finished this flight, came back to base,
Yeah.
and you reported this.
Well, no, I didn't. My navigator did.
Okay.
I thought, well, I've had 3 sightings. I mean, 2 of them balls of light in the sky, and one, the bloke's disappeared. I didn't want to tell them about another one. So I thought, well, I've got to keep quiet about this. But my navigator, being the sort of chap he was, he said, well, they'll find out anyway. I said, yes, they probably will.
How would they have found out anyway?
They read any emissions coming from it would have been picked up by the aircraft systems.
Electromagnetic frequencies?
Yeah, or no, electromagnetic fields and microwave fields, because they looked at the aircraft. We got a gist of there was a heavy maintenance schedule on that aircraft. Well, they wouldn't tell us the details, but I would suggest that it may have fried some of the radar circuits or some of the take-on navigation systems, because they're susceptible to very strong electromagnetic fields and also microwave fields in very high frequency range, which we thought, from a craft that can do that, he must be buzzing on quite a high frequency. And it's just amazing to see. It's one of the most amazing experiences I've ever had, and didn't feel threatened. We just
feel so much peace.
Yeah.
Did you feel like love?
No, we just felt very peaceful.
Just peaceful.
Very tranquil, very peaceful.
Oh my gosh, this is blowing my mind, beautiful soul, being in this space with Trevor. He's such an awesome human being. Imagine what it must have been like for him to be up in that aircraft, following his mate towards that ball of light. His mate's grounded after coming out the other side. Trevor's landed too, and his mate's not there. The straps are still in. How would you feel? My gosh, I can't even fathom it. I can't fathom what it would be like to walk up that ladder, walk up those steps, look in that cockpit, and my friend not be there. And you know what? This information, we're just scratching the surface. This is just the tip of the iceberg. We've got so much more to share with you here on The Cosmic Truth. Yes, thank you so much for tuning in once again to this episode of The Cosmic Truth. These messages are so important. Why? Because they set you free. Knowledge, truth, wisdom. It's inside your own cosmic heart. It's deep within you. All we're doing with these shows is triggering information, light, frequency, vibration that you already know. Join us on next week's episode of Cosmic Truth so you can continue to unfold, expand, explore the depths of your own cosmic heart where all the truth lies.